Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peter Likes Books. Okay, so today we are going to do the Reader Problems book tag. And I just found it because I go through all the tags on YouTube and I find the best and the brightest book tags out there. No, I just find the ones I've never done before. And this is actually created by Tiffany at About to Read. And this is really interesting because I went in here and I just looked and she hasn't posted a video in 3 months. And then I went to her Twitter, and she hasn't posted anything on Twitter in 3 months. So I'm rather concerned about her. Does anybody know what happened to Tiffany at About to Read? I hope she's doing okay, and she developed a fantastic book tag. So I'm going to do it for you guys today. And I don't know. I hope she's okay. Does anybody know? Leave me in the comment section below if you know what happened. Number one. You have 20,000 books on your TBR. How in the world do you decide what to read next? Well, I would never have 20,000 books on my TBR, but I do feel like I own 20,000 books, and they're in the kitchen and on my bookshelves and in the basement. And you know, it's interesting because if somebody tells me to read a book, a lot of times that's how I'll find it, or if I go to the bookstore, or I'll just typically whatever I find interesting at the moment is what I read. And a lot of times it's because I'll watch a video and somebody will talk about something. I'll be like, I think I own that book, and I'll go read it. So that's typically how I pick it, is from you guys, from everybody else talking about books. Number two, you're halfway through a book and you're just not loving it. Do you quit or are you committed? Well, I did a whole video on this about how I really struggled DNFing books. Last year, not 2017, 2016, I think I DNF'd 2 books. And I will tell you what I do now. If I get a third of the way through the book, I'll skim it. Just because I think maybe it'll get better or whatever. I don't do that with a lot. Maybe I did that with 2 other books, but I really struggle with DNFing books. To not finish a book for me, if you don't know what DNF is, it means do not finish. For me to just DNF a book, I'm like, why did you start it? You paid the money for it, especially on Audible. Right now I am listening to Heart-Shaped Box by Joe Hill, and it is a book that I would DNF. I do not like it. I'm not enjoying it at all. But I'm 30% of the way into it on Audible, and I'm like, well, you paid for it, and I know that they'll reimburse me for the credit, but I'm like, you already listened to 3 hours of it, you might as well just finish it, So that's kind of my attitude about it. Plus, if you don't like a book, it means you can have, an opinion and a discussion about it as well. Not every book that you read you're going to love, but I will tell you this. There has to be something about the book that I enjoy. If it's a book that's way over my head and I'm not enjoying it and I'm just reading it because I feel like I should, which I don't ever do that, but if that's the case, then I'm that doesn't really happen to me. I don't read books that I feel like I should because they're hyped up or anything like that. So that doesn't really happen to me. Number 3, the end of the year is coming and you're so close, but so far away on your Goodreads reading challenge. Do you try to catch up, and how? Absolutely. I'm doing it right now. I'm at 50 books and my goal is 100, and you better bet your ass I'm going to whip out every one of those Goosebumps books in the next 2 months. No, I know I'm not going to make it to 100, but it will make me be more realistic, I think, about my reading goals for next year. It's interesting because the last 2 months, last month I read 9 books. The month before I read 12 books, and I didn't even really try that hard. And I'm like, I could have easily met this goal if I had just read. But January, February, March, I wouldn't even call it a reading slump. I just wasn't in the mood to read. I just was watching TV shows, and I was nesting and hibernating because it was so cold that I just didn't read a lot. And I think I tend to read more in the summer months because I like to read outside. So I trimmed my beard and my nose was driving me crazy. I hate that. Number 4, the covers of a series you love do not match. How do you cope? I could care less, honestly. I wouldn't even probably notice. I might be like, why did they do that? That doesn't make any sense, but I could care less, honestly. Okay, number 5, everyone and their mother loves a book you really don't like. Who do you bond with over shared feelings? I probably just talk about it in my vlog and bitch and moan that everybody loved this book like Turtles All the Way Down and I didn't like it. But it's okay, and I think that's the wonderful thing about being on BookTube is that we can all have such varying degrees of, like and dislike for books and, have discussions about it. And I learned something. I have been watching a lot of videos about the John Green book, right? And it's interesting because when people say things, I'll be like, oh, I had never thought of that before, or, this or whatever. So it's interesting to me when I hear a different point of view from somebody that did love a book that I didn't like. So I think that it's important to have discussions with people that have different opinions than us, if that makes sense, Okay, number 6. You're reading a book and you are about to start crying in public. How do you deal? I cry in public. I cry all the time. I cry in movies. I cry in songs. I cry out of joy. I cry because I'm overwhelmed. I cry all the time, okay? What was the book that I just finished reading that I absolutely bawled my eyes out in? Oh, I think it was All the Crooked Saints by Maggie Stiefvater. I'm like literally like crying like, oh, and Dance Moms, the fact that Dance Moms is over. I didn't even see it coming, okay? I'm so stupid. In that last episode, if I ruined it for you, I'm sorry, but it's done, it's over. But anyway, I cry all the time. I don't care. I think crying is an emotional response to feelings that we have inside of us, and I think it's really cathartic and healthy to cry. And when people say to me like, oh, I don't cry, I'm like, well, what's wrong with you? Are you not human? Like, to not cry over something means it didn't mean anything to me to begin with. So, let's see. 7, a sequel of a book you love that just came out, but you've forgotten a lot from your prior novel. Will you reread the book, skip the sequel, try to find a synopsis on Goodreads, or cry in frustration? Okay, so this did happen to me. It doesn't happen to me very often because I don't read series, but it happened to me when I read The Fifth Wave by Rick Yancey, and I had no clue what was going on in the second book. And so I watched, actually, I went and watched the review from Christine about The Fifth Wave, because I was like, okay, she had like post-it notes and everything. I was like, well, it was like spoiler, you know, whatever. Which then I realized why people do spoilers in there, because then I was like looking all over for a spoiler review, and there weren't any spoiler reviews. I was like, I need a spoiler review so I know what happened. That's what I did. Okay, number 8, you do not want anyone borrowing your books. How do you politely tell people nope when they ask? I give books away. I don't even care. I'm like, you know what? Like, they're books. I can buy another one. I can get them at the bookstore or whatever. There's only a few books that like I don't ever lend out. Like, one of them is Replay, because I can't find copies of it anymore. Another one is this horrible romance that me and my friends and all of us read in high school. All me and my friends. My friends and I all read in high school, and it's called Amethyst. I don't ever lend that one out because it was really hard for me to find a copy online. So books that are hard for me to find copies of, I don't lend out. Books that were like my mom's, that mean a lot to me, I wouldn't lend out. But that, I'm probably talking about a majority, like at max 5 or 10 books. Every other book, I just literally give to people. I'm like, here, I loved it, you go read it. Like, I'm not a book collector. I mean, if I had the space, I would be, and I knew like I'm never gonna have to move again, and this will be the last house I ever live in, I would have every bookshelf filled. But like, because I love the look of books, I love books being around, but like, I don't want to have to box up 9 million books and move. And if you've done it as many times as I have in my life, what you will realize is books are the most insane thing to move because they're so heavy, and it's just a nuisance. And then you're like, what do I want to take? What do I want to get rid of? You know, all that kind of stuff. So I like to give books away. Plus, I want somebody else to enjoy what I've read, you know? Books are expensive. There's no reason why we shouldn't all enjoy books, you know? Reading ADD. You've picked up and put down 5 books in the last month. How do you get over your reading slump? Well, I did that with like 5 books over the last year from Booktubeathon. I had like 5 books that I started and I never finished. And I think that, you know, the problem for me was that I was like, I have to finish these books. I have to finish these books. I wish I would have just DNF'd them, honestly. And, you know, they were good, but like by the time that I finished them, they were not that great. They just weren't. And you know, like one of them was an Ellen Hopkins book. I love her, but I ended up skimming it because I didn't know the characters. You know, another one, I couldn't remember the characters, so I skimmed it until I kind of remembered. You know, the other one was Summer Days and Summer Nights by Stephanie Perkins. It was okay. I mean, it was not like when I got done, I was like, yes, I'm so glad I had to read that. None of them were that great, so I wish what I would have known is just put them away and read what you want to read, you know? Number 10, there are so many new books coming out that you're dying to read. How many do you actually buy? Well, I'm pretty realistic, and here's the problem, is now I think to myself, what do I want to listen to on Audible, and what do I want to buy and read, if that makes sense? Like, and I am killing for buying a book and then listening to it on Audible because I love the Audible readings of books. I have bought every Adam Silvera book and read it and then listened to it on Audible because the Audible readings of his books are so fantastic. There's so many, you know, like, the Russell Middlebrook series by Brent Hardiger is like my all-time favorite series of life, and the Geography Club series. And I love the guy, his name is Josh Hurley. I even know who he is and I follow him on Twitter, who is the narrator. And I love him so much for the role of Russell Middlebrook. And but like I own the books too. So it's like, you know, I don't know, like, you know what I mean? So like if the book came out, I would buy it, but I would probably also listen to it on Audible. If I am like in a buying mood and I have, it all has to do with money for me. If I have money, I buy more. If I don't have any money, I'm very picky about what I buy. Number 11, the final question. After you've bought the new books you can't wait to get to, how long do they sit on your shelf before you get to them? Years. I mean, I have so many books that I bought 2 years ago and books I bought in my first haul that I talked about on BookTube that I've never read, and that's okay. And they'll sit over there, and when I decide to go pick up one of those books, I'll be like, oh my God, here it is, and I'll read it then. And, you know, like, I think Crystal from Crystal the Bookworm, I don't know why that sounded like that, but I think she sent me A Court of Mist and Fury like 2 years ago, and I still haven't read it, but I'm going to. That's like on my list for this next year. So I want to get into more series, and because I know that people really, really enjoy them, so that's going to be my goal, is like the next couple months, I'm going to really try like the first book of a lot of series and see which series I really can get into, if that makes sense. Because I do enjoy reading series, but it has to be a series that I just absolutely love, you know? So that's the reader book tag. I don't know, the tag is so old, it's like 2 years old. So I'm not going to tag anybody in it because I don't know who's done it and who hasn't done it. So if you haven't done it and you're looking for a book tag, you're it. I love you. And I will see you tomorrow. Bye.